I've been told and have observed on my own that when I'm with people, I seem to bring out the best in people, and that feels really good to me to know that I can be a positive influence in my environment. What I'd like to know is, how can I bring out the best of me for me?
Well, it's nice. Those of you who have been listening to us for a while, we always have a new way of explaining it, yes? And this vortex, as you begin playing everything that you've ever known against this analogy of the vortex, it just gets clearer and clearer for you. And so what you just said is, when I'm in the vortex, people tell me that I uplift them. And what that means is, you stand in the vortex where you can see only the best in them. And when you see only the best in them, then you help them to activate the best in them. And then they come in the vortex. And when you're all hanging around in the vortex, it's a really pleasant place. It's where good ideas come from. It's where inspiration comes from. It's where the best co-creativity comes from. In other words, it's divine to interact with those who are in the vortex. But what happens with so many teachers and healers and uplifters like you is that you keep noticing that the majority of people who need you aren't in the vortex. So you go out to get them. And then you're not in the vortex. And then they get really irritating, because if they just try harder. So you said, I've been told and I can feel that I uplift people. Well, what that means is, you're hanging around in the vortex and you're calling them in. Then your next part of the question is, how can I do that for me? And we say, be aware of the vortex and just get in there. Esther said to Jerry, she said this a few times, that before they were married, before they were together, before they were a couple, she saw him. He always brought her into the vortex. She couldn't even think about him. She told him, I used to get happy just driving past your house. He represented in the vortex, even though she had no idea. Even though she had no idea what in the vortex even meant then. It just made her feel good. But now they are together. It's different than looking to him. In other words, even though he is predominantly in the vortex, now they have conversations. They have outside the vortex conversations now that they are married that they never had before they were married. That's a good way of putting it. That's a very good way of putting it. In other words, you give yourself permission to leave the poor man alone. You give yourself permission to have outside the vortex conversations once you have those vows, until death do us part, no matter how bad I am, you'll stay with me. Esther teases Jerry. She says, I photocopied that marriage license and I have it buried in all of the western states. You cannot get away from me, no matter how hard you try. So what we're getting at here is that when you take it as your responsibility to be inside the vortex, look to no other. You look to no other for being in other words, what we heard a bit from you, and we've heard it from Esther over the years, is it's nice to have a mentor who uplifts you. But what do you do when you are the mentor? What do you do? And we say, you reach for the only thing that was ever really there for anyone anyway, which is inside the vortex, your own source. In other words, you reach for that. You let your emotions be your guide, and you reach for alignment with the resources of source that are tremendous. You see, the best thing that you could ever do for any other, and here's exactly what you're doing. You are standing inside the vortex, therefore you're in alignment with source energy, therefore you are giving them a sort of satellite feed or satellite dish boost. In other words, you're just making the vortex more accessible. When you're in physical form and you're in the vortex and you're feeling good and you hold someone outside the vortex as your object of attention, it does not necessarily mean that you will be spit out of the vortex. It's possible for you to be in the vortex, hold someone as your object of attention who's not in the vortex, and maintain your inside the vortex vibration, and that's when you truly uplift them. That's how healers heal. That's what Jesus was doing. He stayed inside this vortex. He knew their wellness. He did not even see their illness. While he focused upon them, he saw them from inside the vortex. So Don't ask anybody else to get in there and call you in. Every now and again, Esther asked that of Jerry. Get in the vortex and call me in. Well, it doesn't quite go like that. It's more like, you're not in the vortex and you're not helping me. Didn't you know I've given you the assignment of always being in the vortex so that you can call me in? And you see, you sort of become dependent on one another, because when someone is predominantly good feeling, are you really doing your friends a service? This is really a good question. Do you do your friends a service by always being in the vortex and always holding them from your in the vortex stance as a positive object of attention? We say, well, no harm can ever come from it. But it is very helpful for you to be real, and when you're not in the vortex, let them know. I don't feel good, and it's my own doing. I thought these thoughts, and it changed my vibration, and when I changed my vibration because I focused upon that, I lost my connection to who I really am. I'm going to go and focus on some other things and get back into alignment, you see. We really don't want your friends or any friends to be dependent upon you for feeling good. We want you to teach them about the vortex.